For this project, we're going to make two different parts, but each part is going to have multiple configurations. Let's take a look and see how we're going to do that. I'm going to start by, as usual, by making a sketch, Shift S, and then I'm going to click a plane, N for normal, C for circle. I'm going to draw a circle on here. Let's make it 10 millimeters in diameter. Looks good. That's actually all I'm going to do. Shift E to extrude that. Now, instead of blind, I want to extrude that symmetric because this is going to be a symmetric part. And that's it. 25 millimeters looks good. I'm done. P to turn the planes off. F to fit to the window. Let's add a little chamfer. I'm going to click chamfer. I'm going to click not that face, but that edge. And it's actually just going to be a 2 millimeter chamfer. Yeah, 2 millimeters looks good. I'm going to hit OK. This is actually my complete part. I'm done constructing the part, but now it's time to make configuration. So I would like to have, I don't know, maybe 30 or 32 different versions of this part. So right now this one is 10 millimeters in diameter and 25 long, and it's got a chamfer on it. If I want another one that doesn't have a chamfer on it, I'd have to like maybe, you might be tempted to make a different or copy that didn't have a chamfer. Or maybe I want one that's longer or shorter or fatter. And you might be tempted to make multiple versions of this same document, but that's really where the power of configurations comes in. Let's take a look. So let's make 4 different lengths for this one. I'll start by clicking my configurations panel, and then I'm going to configure a part studio, and I'm going to configure features, and I'm going to click that first extrude. The extrude dialog box pops up, and what do I want to configure? I want to configure the depth. So I'm going to click depth, and there it is. It's thrown that extrude 1 depth into the panel over there, and I can click done. Now the default is 25 millimeters. I'm going to add another one, let's say 15 millimeters, and 10, maybe, I don't know, 10 millimeters, and let's make a long one, maybe 35 millimeters. So I've got several, and then I just have to change the dimension. So 15, 10, and 35. It's that easy. Now, if you look at my part over on the left, I've got my default. I can select the 15 millimeter version. I can select the 10 millimeter version, et cetera, et cetera. So right there, that quickly, I was able to make, I now have 4 versions of the same part. Now, I also want different diameters. Now, there's a couple ways I can do that. I can add more features. If I click the plus sign, let's try it. I can click extrude, and the diameter, actually no, not the extrude, it's the diameter that I want. So I can click, so watch, if I hit plus and click the sketch and select that diameter dimension, I can configure that, and notice it shows up in that same table I made. So now I've got four different rows. I've got default, 15, 10, and 35, and each one could have a different diameter and a different depth. That might be the way I want to do it. So I'd have 4 different parts, each with different diameters, depths, etc. Or what I want in this case, I want to be able to select any diameter and any depth, and that kind of multiplies the number of parts. So instead of just 4, I'm about to have 16 different parts. So let's do that. So instead of adding my extrude or my the diameter there, I'm going to add another input. And that input, I could name it, maybe I'll name that in a second, but it's going to be that diameter dimension that I had a second ago. So configure features, click the sketch, and click that diameter. And now I'm done. Now I can go in and add some, so the diameter is 10, let's add, let's do an 8 millimeter diameter. And a 12 millimeter diameter, and a, I don't know, 6. And then all I need to do, the default is 8, and our default's 10. I can say I want a 12 and I want a 6 there. And instead of the word default, I might call it 10 millimeter, so it's clear. And I might make this one 25. There. So now you can see up at the top, I've got 2 inputs for configurations. I can select which length I want. Maybe I want the 35 millimeter long, and maybe I want the skinny one, the 6 millimeter diameter. And so with each one of those, I can select so now I basically have 16 different options. And I even want to add that chamfer as an option. So I'm going to click Add Input. I'm going to select Configure Features, Add Chamfer 1. The fact that it is unsuppressed, I want as an option. There, I'm going to hit Done. And then unsuppressed means there is a chamfer. And then no chamfer. And for no chamfer, I want it suppressed. And so I can for any one of my pegs or dowel pins, I can have a certain diameter, certain length, and I can select whether it's the chamfer is suppressed or not. And I don't like how big that is, so I'm going to make that 1. And this will be reflected for all of the different configurations. So I can make it 8. So that looks really good. So right now I think if I'm doing my math right, I think I have 32 different dowel pins that I can choose from with just one part. Pretty awesome. Let's make one new part. I'm gonna make a new part studio. And by the way, I'm gonna go back here. I'm trying to get in the habit of renaming everything, and so I'm gonna rename this part as dowel. I'm also gonna rename the part studio. And this part is going to be frame. And let's see how we're going to do this. Let's hit sketch, Shift S for sketch, and for normal, I'm going to hit L for lines, and I'm going to draw a line that looks, I'm going to draw a trapezoid. Now I've made a pretty ugly trapezoid. Turn the planes off. Click this guy, make him, I think it's H for horizontal. Yep, there it is. I'm going to do L and then Q. Remember, Q turns on construction geometry. I'm going to make these edges symmetric. Now I'm going to add some dimensions. So I'm making a picture frame. What's a critical dimension? Definitely the distance between here and here is critical. I think I've mentioned before, I usually model with a ruler in my hand. The picture frame I want is going to be about 40 millimeters. That looks good. And then let's add this outer dimension here, maybe 300. And I'm going to add an angle dimension here. This needs to be 45. And that thing's fully dimensioned. Now I'm going to extrude that. I'm also going to go symmetric. So yeah, just anytime I've got things that are symmetric, I try to reflect that in my design. 25 millimeters, let's make it 20. So that's a piece of a picture frame. Now I'm going to put some holes in there because the holes are going to be for those dowel pins. I'm going to sketch on that plane, hit N for normal. How do I want my circles? I definitely want them on the center, so I'm going to draw a center line. That might make my life easier. So I'm going to draw some construction geometry there. C for circle, I'm going to draw 2 circles here. Oops, those were I still had construction turned on, so I'm going to hit Q to turn those off of construction. D, 10 sounds good. I'm going to make them both equal. I'm going to click this guy and say equal. And then I'm going to dimension how far apart they are. Let's do 25. And how far from the edge they are. Let's do, I don't know, 12 looks good. And then I'm going to extrude that as a whole, as a remove. I'm going to click remove. What faces do I want to remove? Here and here. How deep do I want to go? 25 looks a little deep. Let's go 10. Now let's go 12. And then I'm also, I don't know, looks good to me. Then I'm going to mirror that to the other side. Mirror a feature mirror. What am I mirroring? I'm mirroring this feature. My mirror plane is the right plane. Okay, so now I've got holes. So that looks great. I'm also going to add a configuration to this. And it's only one thing I'm going to do, short and long, just for now. So I'm going to go to my configurations panel, configure this part studio. I'm going to configure the one of the dimensions in the sketch. It's the 300, and that's actually it. So I'm going to call this one 300. That'll be the short one. And then the long one will be, I don't know, 500. Cool. That's it. I now have two different picture frames. So now in my assembly, let's see if we can assemble this thing together, then I'm done. So in my assembly, I'm going to drop in 4 picture frame pieces, 2 of the short ones, 2 of the long ones. So I'm going to go into the frame part studio. I'm going to select part 1. I should have renamed it by now. Forgot to do that. I'm going to drop that guy in. And then I'm going to add a long one also. I'm going to drop this guy in. So I'm going to drop both those. And while I'm at it, I think I can click both of these and hit Control C, Control V, copy paste. Now I've got all my frame pieces. I need 8 dowel pieces, but the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to select my dowel and I'm going to drop this guy in there. Oh, I should have done that. So I could see if I drop down the part studio, I can select which one I want. 25, 10, and chamfer sounds good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in, I'm going to turn on hidden lines visible, and let's see if I can assemble just one of these for now. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to do a fasten mate, and the fasten mate is going to be between this edge, that mate connector there, right there on the plane, and then hopefully there's one in the middle of this. There it is. See, right there. I'm going to grab that guy, and it's done. That is fastened. And the reason I turned on hidden lines to make sure, I guess I could do the math. I think I made, this is the, which dowel do I have selected? I have the 25 millimeter deep one, and I think I made the holes 12. That's going to be a little long, and so let's do, let's see, maybe I want those different depths. We'll just keep it with it like this. So I'm just going to make the hole actually a little bit deeper. I'm going to go back to my frame and do 12.5. So let's see. I'm going to change this to 12.5. Make sure those fit in there and there's no interferences. I'm going to go back to my assembly, and that should look good. Okay, that looks good. That's in there just right. So the whole point of this is I can use multiple configurations as I'm assembling this thing. So maybe I want, maybe this hole is deeper, and then so for the deeper ones, I would want longer pins. That actually would be a cool way to do that. Shoot, you know what? That's the way I'm going to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Watch this. This is an easy fix. I'm going to roll back to my first extrude. And this extrude, I'm going to deselect one of the faces. So I want one of them to be 12. And then I'm just going to make a second extrude where I turn that sketch back on and grab that other circle. And that one can be a little bit deeper. I'm going to make it a remove. And instead of 12.5, let's make it 17.5. And notice that fits. So I'm going to turn off my configuration panel. If you look at hidden lines, you can see that one's a little bit deeper, and it still doesn't, eat into it just doesn't poke all the way through. So I think that's perfect. Then if I go back to mirror, right now only one of them is mirrored, but I can edit that mirror to include that other extrusion. So I think that's probably a better way to go. So now when I go back to my assembly, I might actually have multiple, I might use multiple configurations for, depending on which hole I'm assembling it to. Now it's time just to assemble the other 7 dowel pins. You can see how easy it was to put that one in. Let's see if I can get replicate to work. So I'm going to go back to shaded, and I'm going to use replicate to try to copy that dowel. So I'm going to hit replicate. What do I want to replicate? I want to replicate this guy. Match edges. I might just match individual edges. That might work. So if I say that, yeah, that's cool. I love it when things work. Let's see if I can keep going. How cool is that? Jeez, Onshape makes life so easy. All right, boom, boom. This is like crazy how easy this is. All right, I think I've got all my dowel pins. That should be enough to assemble the whole thing. And then, like I said before, I might make a couple of these longer. So let's see, if I go back to hidden lines visible, I might make this guy a little bit deeper. And so I can probably change the configuration here. And instead of be 25, let's make him 35. And that should be perfect. Cool. So I have to do that for a couple other ones. So I want to make this one 35, change configuration, 35. Yeah, I think that's going to look great. And then do that for 2 more of these. So this guy needs to be 35, change configuration, 35. And then lastly, this guy needs to be 35. And then I'm ready to assemble the frame and I am done. So I've got my short pieces. Now I just got to assemble on these long pieces. I'm going to use a fasten mate with, let's grab that and that. And I'm going to flip it. Looks good. Same over here. I'm going to grab this mate connector, and that's the one closest to the edge. I think it's this one. Did I get that right? Not sure I did that one right. No, I did not. Let's go back. Oh, there we go. So I did use the right. Now I just gotta flip that. That might be fixable. I might have to just start over on that one. There we go. All right, looking good. All right, last one, fasten mate. So by the way, that shouldn't be mysterious. What I was doing is you can flip the primary axis. So when you do a mate connector, sometimes you have 2 primary axes aligned. Flipping those just aligns them this way or this way. Or I can actually reorient my secondary axis, and that is, so I've got these 2 aligned, and then am I flipping around? So my secondary axis is, I've got maybe this is aligned, or maybe I should say this, and then my thumb is the secondary axis, and do I want it this way or this way or this way? With those 2 options, you can usually make just about anything you want to work will look good. So I'm going to select that guy, and I think this guy, and I should be done. Let's see if I got it right. I think, yeah, I was close. Let's see. That one probably is just the secondary. So let's edit this one, and there. I have an assembled picture frame. I think that looks awesome. Let's go back to hidden lines, and you can see that my dowel pins all line up perfectly with the holes. I think that looks great.